So what that does for now is like we're gonna shoot for like 10 minutes ish. Should be enough. So I'm just gonna clap on that. Is it going to go on? Yeah, cool. Just doing a double check. Never hurts. Alright, neat. And then lastly, okay, so start by stating your name, who you are, what you do for the audience.
My name is Deb. I am a content creator in the Web3 space as well as branching out to other areas currently.
Okay. Do you think it would be suitable to refer to yourself as like a finance educator as well?
I think there are some legal
Gray
implications
areas?
with that.
How about finance enthusiast?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, we can roll with that. Finance enthusiast. So cool. Huh?
Should I look into that one or that one?
No, you can do both.
Okay.
Both is fine. It's just like it's gonna be more of a case of like alternating as we go along.
Right.
This is more for like BTS type of stuff, but this is gonna be the main thing as far as like what you can read is for your whatever needs for the reader. Granted, you're gonna need like a video editing software to be able to mess with that. Would
Okay.
that be fine with you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, go. Lastly, I need to do like one last adjustment because it has the setup from last time.
Okay.
So like now, oddly enough, like you're not Casper. So it's like the complete opposite. Okay, cool. Fantastic. Okay, so we can like run this all the way back. So just like who you are, what you do, your interests, and what platforms you're on.
My name is Deb. I am a content creator. I'm a financial enthusiast in the Web3 space, as well as covering general news, things going on in the world, and all of that good stuff.
Okay. So first of all, let's touch on the mental health aspect. So you spoke about cancer and how that has impacted you. How does that impact your mental health specifically, and what are the methods you're employing to deal with that?
So I'll kind of backtrack towards like when I first got diagnosed. I've always kind of had mental health issues, and when you kind of add physical health issues on top of that, especially something like with like such a heavy name like cancer, that definitely does impact it in a negative way, where, you know, generally if I'm trying to manage my mental health alone, it's easier to do, but when you have to think about your physical health and all of the things that could happen, and kind of going through the why me state, like why did I get cancer, why did I get unlucky at such a young age, that definitely runs through your mind as well. So it's kind of gotten to the point where I just kind of have to be accepting of it and kind of see things for what they are. Like, you know, no amount of overthinking or, you know, depression or anxiety is going to remove the fact that I've had cancer. So what can I personally do to learn how to live with it and manage it? And what that looks like for me now is just, you know, active surveillance and getting labs and, you know, getting checkups just to make sure nothing else pops up, because the moment that it does, or hopefully it won't, but if it does, then I'll be able to kind of deal with it as they come.
And the day-to-day physical impact, what does that look like for you? How do you manage just day-to-day life and stuff?
For me, it is a little difficult because I had my thyroid completely removed because I had thyroid cancer, and your thyroid is essentially in control of like a lot of your hormones. So I am on like medication that I have to take every morning. I have to take it on an empty stomach and like wait an hour before I eat. It's kind of become like a routine now where I'm pretty used to it. But at the same time, like I do notice my mood is a little different, and like I also had a hysterectomy and my ovaries are gone, so I don't get estrogen as well. So it's kind of like a huge impact just in regards to my body not getting the hormones it's supposed to have. And like even though medication can kind of give it to me, it's definitely not the same as like the natural thing.
Okay. And the impact in terms of how you do what you do as a creator, like what does that look like? How do you accommodate?
So for me, like that's kind of why I got into the content creation side of things as well, is because I have all of these health issues, so I have to find a way to make a living for myself where like, if I have an off day, if I don't feel well, if I'm sick, like I can take that break, where if I had a 9-to-5 job, like I would just not be able to do that. So the good thing about this is that, essentially if I do need to take a break and like, I'm not feeling good for a couple of days, I can do that and then just kind of pick up right where I left off, which wouldn't be possible if I was doing other work.
So we covered the first bullet point. Let's go on to the second one. Let's just check again. Yeah, same thing as before. So talking about like online drama and vulnerability specifically. So you're open about what you're dealing with online and on the internet. And to what degree are you willing to share stuff?
I think I'm very willing to kind of just share my experiences because it's a little therapeutic for myself, just kind of being like, okay guys, like this is happening, like I don't have to keep everything and like internalize everything. And at the same time, like there are people who are going through similar things, and if they think like, okay, like I'm not the only one who's getting attacked for this, like I'm not the only one who's getting these negative comments on my post, that kind of gives me purpose into like, okay, like I do need to be sharing this because not only is it going to help me, but it can potentially help someone else who's struggling through the same thing.
Okay, and the vulnerability in terms of like how general audiences respond to what you post online, they don't all know you like that. Do you feel like accepted and welcomed in that regards?
I think to an extent, it's also very frustrating because like I have been very negative a lot of my life, and like I'm definitely still struggling, but I'm really trying to kind of put positive things out there. And when I'm posting positive things, like those are literally things that I need to hear myself. And as positive and as motivational and as like uplifting as I try to be on this space, it doesn't matter how nice I am, like people will always have negative things to say, and that like really kind of sticks with you because it's just like, okay, no matter what you do, people are gonna hate on it. You can be the absolutely best person in the world and people will still find a reason to hate you. And that's just kind of given me fuel to like, okay, like I'm gonna be myself regardless, because no matter what I'm doing, someone's gonna find a way to find something bad about it.
Okay. And the authenticity that you're advocating for, how receptive are the people that do know you? How receptive are they? And what shift, if any, have you noticed in terms of how they either interact with you or treat you or just interact with other people too?
I think that has definitely shifted over time as I've become more open and more willing to talk about, not only my health struggles, my mental health struggles, and just things that are kind of going on in my life. And people are usually very receptive to that, and they can see like, oh, like you're going through that, like maybe I haven't been through that, but like I have a wife or I have kids who are struggling through the same thing. So that kind of gives me a way to actually connect with someone, and more so like on a soul level, rather than just like on the surface, like, oh, we're talking about blockchain, like you're telling me to buy your crypto, but like I don't know who you are as a person. And I think once people know you as a person, that also gives you more trust just in the space in general, because they're like, oh, she might be talking about this, but like I know she's going through this, and I know she's been through this. So this kind of allows me to kind of create actual, like almost like in real life like connections, even though it's still like through a computer.
Okay, that makes sense. What was that?
No idea.
So, do you how well do you cope with drama, and how do people respond when you set your foot down and you let them know, hey, don't treat me this way, that kind of thing?
It depends. I have definitely gotten, I think, better at handling drama, because before, when I would, probably like a year ago, I would see one negative comment and literally like I would have to take a break for like a week, just because I was just like, okay, that was not right. I've kind of learned to ignore things for the most part, but sometimes it gets so out of pocket, and so like I just like have to bring myself to say something. And I think I've been able to kind of handle it in a better manner, where before I would just feel really victimized and really like I have to prove and I have to defend myself, whereas now it's just like, okay, like you literally just should not treat other human beings like that. Like there was an instance a couple of days ago, and I posted that I had 300 days of sobriety from alcohol, and like a lot of people were really supportive, like, oh, good job, like we're proud of you, all of that. And then some guy commented and he was like, oh, like you just need to learn like self-control. And it's just like, you do not, I didn't interact with it, but it definitely impacted me, because it's like you do not tell someone with an addiction issue, you know, to do that. And like I view like addiction as kind of like an allergy. Like I feel like I'm allergic to alcohol, and like if I have it, I literally cannot control it. Like some of it is like emotional and like family factors, another thing is just like my genetic makeup. And like you wouldn't tell someone with diabetes, like who like can't have like a specific amount of sugar, like, oh, you just have to get used to it, blah blah. So I think people just either don't think about what they're telling other people, they don't think about their situations, and they also just kind of think they know everything, and it's just like you don't know what this person's going through. Like you should not be saying that to them.
That makes sense. Cool. That makes 2 bullet points. Follower interaction. That's like the third one. So, what are your thoughts on like the whole follower creator relationship?
I think it's really important, and I've seen people kind of go about it 2 ways. Like for me, I want people to see me as their equal. Like I want people to feel comfortable with messaging me or commenting on my posts, and like I always make a point to try to interact with everyone as long as it's positive and, you know, nothing crazy. I will interact with it. And like I literally don't care about follower count. If someone, you know, gives me good advice, or if someone is just always interacting and like being supportive, like I will give them a follow. Where I think a lot of people in this space kind of think of themselves as like a superior figure, and like if people don't gaw over them, like they won't give them the time of day, and like that's just not who I am. And I think the best way to form connections is to just treat other people like human beings, as we all should.
And on the thing, in terms of how followers treat you specifically, like, is there anything out of pocket that has happened when people cross the line?
Yeah, there have definitely been a lot of different instances where that has happened, where either, like, when I got diagnosed with cancer, for instance, like, people were messaging me and they were just like, you just have to change your diet, like, you should not be getting surgery, like, you should not be doing this and this. And like, as much as I appreciate people's advice and like willingness to help me, it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, you can kind of hand people information, but you should not be forcing people and like making them feel bad for not doing what you want them to do. And there have also been instances where like I'm generally just like, I try to be like a nice person, and like sometimes men will take it in a wrong way as like, oh, she's talking to me, like she must be like romantically interested in me. And it's just like, no, like I literally just need friends, and like I like found you as someone who like I thought I could talk to, and then they kind of get out of pocket and slowly start getting creepier, and then it's just like, okay. So I've definitely experienced like both sides of things.
I guess we can like flesh like a part two on this in terms of you being a woman on the internet. You know, like what's the vibe with that? You know, like what's the general consensus? Like, do you feel like that's the kind of thing that gets you to a breaking point, or have you found a way to deal with it? Because it sounds like you're dealing with a lot already on your plate, but then the other stuff on top, like, it's, at least to me, it gets annoying.
It definitely does get annoying, and you know, I've kind of learned to navigate as well, where like some people, like people also don't understand, like I'm 25, I'll be 26 like later this month, and it's like I'm still young, like I'm going to dress the way that I want to dress. I might not fit your little cookie cutter image of like what you think a woman in Web3 should look like, but that doesn't mean what I'm doing or like how I'm staying true to myself is wrong. So I think people can be very harsh just in regards to like how you're dressing, like what you look like. Like I always feel the need to kind of put on like a specific, I guess, front when I'm like in front of the camera or in front of like, you know, taking pictures and things like that. And then there are other instances where just like women are not supportive of other women in the space. And like, yeah, like people talk about women empowerment, but it's like the moment someone sees you doing better than them, they'll see you as like an enemy, they'll see you as a threat. Whereas like I just want an inclusive space where like people can treat each other civil. Like if you don't like me, like that is completely fine, like don't interact with me. But for people to kind of go out of their way and just start spreading hate is just, can definitely be heavy and be a lot to deal with as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So, fourth bullet point, and that's gonna be the last one for the mental health section. So, friendships and how you handle that. You know, like what's that been like for you? How do you balance everything between doing stuff online and offline?
It's definitely, it can be a lot. There are a few like individuals who I would like literally consider like my best friends. Like, oh wait for that. It's definitely been kind of difficult for me. There are definitely individuals in this space who I would consider like my best friends, like in real life as well. So like those relationships I definitely prioritize. Where like, you know, we'll call each other every few days, like we'll text, like we'll stay up to date with that. In terms of people who like I would consider like friends but like not best friends, there are a lot of people messaging me like on Twitter for instance, and like I can get really bad at handling my DMs just because I get kind of flirted with them. And some people are like really kind, like they don't care like if I take like 2 or 3 days to respond, because like I have a life outside of Web3 as well, which I think people don't really like realize. But
I don't even care about.
Yeah, they don't care about it, and they just kind of want attention like as soon as possible, where it's just like, okay, I literally am dealing with like other things right now. And you know, like there are people like if I don't respond to their DMs, like within like 30 minutes they'll start like replying under my tweets. They're like, hey, I DM'd you, like check your DMs. It's just like I will literally get to it when I can, but like please like give me grace and like allow me to get to things on my own time.
Jesus, I don't know how you do it, man. You're like God's strongest soldier. That is not me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that one got heavy for a second there. At least like it's gonna be stuff you can use and post about.
Yeah.
Cool. We got the big one out of the way. Crypto news stuff. So, safe plays, safe moves and whatnot. Like how do you see things?
I think we're kind of at a point where we are going to remain pretty stagnant, and we're not going to see major price action for the next month, maybe 2 months or so. So I am personally taking this opportunity, one, to like educate myself on things that I need to learn more about and that I'm curious about, as well as, you know, you can't really go wrong dollar cost averaging in like things that like I would personally consider safe investments that like I pretty much know for a fact are going to be doing well like next bull run. It's just a matter of when they're going to take off.
Okay. And in terms of like the ordinal stuff specifically and its relation to the other stuff that is similar to it, like how do you see that going?
I think ordinals are really in their infancy stage. Like it's kind of like imagine like getting into NFTs right when they happened, like before they had their big boom. So I do see a lot of potential there. And I think people who are taking the time to not only buy ordinals but like learn about ordinals and see the benefit of them, I think those are the people who are going to benefit from that long term because it's literally right at the beginning stages.
Okay, and platform-wise and strategy-wise, you talk about branching out a ton, especially as someone who's known already as like a blockchain crypto person. How do you personally handle that? And what strategies, if any, do you see that other people could apply in terms of taking their stuff to the next level? Because it sounds to me that a lot of this lives on Twitter and nowhere else.
Yeah, I think for myself, one, I'm trying to branch out to not just solely be like Web3 because, like, yes, that's important and that is a big part of my life. But I think I'm kind of limiting my abilities by solely just talking about Web3 and crypto all of the time, where I could be covering like news events and things like that nature. But in terms of like what platforms, I think it's really important that we remember, like, yes, like I know for a fact, like I succeed more on Twitter than I do on YouTube. My algorithm is a lot better on Twitter. But that's not to say like I should not be exploring other platforms. Like I want to be able to repurpose my stuff not only on X but as well as on YouTube and TikTok, and kind of not making it so I have to make a ton of content like for each thing, but being able to actually repurpose it and like record like a 2-minute video and be like, okay, I can post this as a short on YouTube and I can post this as a video on Twitter and like I can edit this to make it like a TikTok. So I think things like that are kind of like the way that I am trying to go about things that I think like kind of sets you up for long-term success.
Okay. And also specifically in regards of what other people are doing, like who, as far as you can tell, whether people that do spaces or people that post stuff on Twitter, or stuff that you personally would want to see more of in terms of platforms, where would you want them to go?
I think a big thing would probably, especially people in the Web3 space, would be moving to TikTok, because TikTok, like at least my algorithm, it's all like dance and like lip syncing and like, you know, funny videos. And like, I think that there is definitely room for people to kind of step in and be like, okay, we talk about Web3 and like people are going to gravitate towards them because there's not a lot of people on there, as well as YouTube. But I feel like kind of Twitter is almost kind of competing with each of those platforms, because X is coming out with like video spaces and they're coming out with like a video section, like a real thing, which is kind of like imitating TikTok as well as Instagram. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see if Twitter is going to be able to kind of live up to those expectations as well as potentially like outperform its competition.
Oh, so you think they have that potential to outperform YouTube?
I think they definitely have the potential to kind of outperform TikTok, as well as, you know...
That's a bold claim.
Yeah,
Remember, TikTok is a platform that currently has over 3 billion active users.
That is true, but I think if X is able to do things the proper way and actually, you know, live up to what I would expect, like Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, to be able to use his resources to make it the best, I think there's definitely potential there.
Okay, so a lot of that faith, if anything, for lack of a better term, comes from knowing that he's rich. So rich comes resources, resources potentially comes improvements, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think so. And like, yeah, like money does not solve everything, but is he like in a better place than myself to like make like a great platform? Like, absolutely.
Okay, interesting take. Cool, we got pretty much all the crypto stuff out of the way in one fell swoop. I guess like crypto / tech stuff. Lastly, we'll touch upon like the more general news kind of topic kind of thing. So we'll start with like the AI stuff. So like like brushing up on AI specifically, like what do you know about it? And like what about it interests you specifically?
So AI is pretty much I see it kind of like a brain where it's like a better brain than I have because it has a lot more information.
Don't talk shit about yourself like that.
I know, but
you're clearly intelligent. I wouldn't put you down like that.
In some areas, yes, but like having like being able to type any question and just having it in an instant and like having so much information on that. So AI is definitely, it can be used for good, and like it can be used to like improve ourselves as well as like improve our efficiency. And like, I saw someone like on Instagram today, like they literally used like AI to like structure their whole day, and like now they're in like good flows of things. So like
literally like a planner.
Yeah, literally like a planner. So like AI can pretty much do, pretty much anything. And I do think like AI is the future, but I also like, I don't want to see AI completely take over, because then I feel like people's jobs are going to be at risk, and like we're not going to get that like one-on-one like human interaction that, it's definitely not like we were like 20 years ago, but we still kind of get little tastes of human interactions, where I feel like with AI and like with like where I think it's going, I think that's gonna be definitely minimalized over time.
How do you see AI impacting the finance sector specifically?
I think AI can be very beneficial in the finance sector in terms of like bots and, like I guess like learning more about things. But it's gonna be interesting to see how AI like integrates with like NFTs and just the crypto space in general.
How so? Could you give me some insights in terms of where your head is at, what you're thinking?
In terms of like AI,
yeah, like how does it fit in with the whole blockchain ecosystem? Like,
I think
practically speaking, like how does someone who's interested in combining the two, how do they go about doing so from your perspective?
It's a little tricky because like I think we're kind of like, as I said earlier, like just kind of like in the infancy of things, but I think people can really utilize AI to kind of, I guess, solve like little issues that we do see every day, like within blockchain and within like smaller cap tokens and NFT projects, and like having that resource to be able to like fix things and like having that knowledge, I think that will go a long way.
Interesting. So in terms of a management standpoint, is this also another way you see AI being helpful? Because a lot of the so-called projects, right? Like that's basically what they are. These are basically like virtual companies that are managed by communities or people. You see AI playing a role in that in terms of management?
I think so. I think like I've seen a lot of people as well like just use AI like to run like their social media accounts and stuff. So I definitely think there's a lot of room there, but it gets to a point where it's like, okay, like even if it is AI, I want it to, I would rather hear from like a genuine individual than, a robot that, might sound like a person. But I think there is a limit as to how much AI I would like to see integrated in this space, to like where it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, that just is not even like, that is not human.
You did also touch upon the fact that someone made fake AI stuff about you before, yeah?
Yeah, that is definitely not a fun experience. So I was on Telegram. I actually deleted my Telegram just because I couldn't handle it, but Telegram like tells you when people read your messages, and I get weird messages all the time, and I got a message from this account and I didn't recognize the name, and they were just like hi, and I was like, okay, I don't know who this is, like I'm not going to interact with it. Like I just had a bad feeling. Like they kept sending me question marks and like all this, and I was just like, oh my god. And I accidentally clicked on it and it read the messages. Big mistake. When that happened, he was like, oh, you're gonna pay for this, like blah blah. I'm just like, okay, like whatever, like this person doesn't know me, they don't know where I live. He edited deep fake videos and put my face on a woman on a pornographic video, and literally went through all of my followers, and just pumped it out everywhere in comments, on posts. Like pretty much everyone who followed me saw it, and that was not a great experience. Definitely one of my worst experiences in the space so far.
How does it impact your prior comments you've made earlier in terms of being a visible woman on the internet? Like has this made you consider quitting?
Yeah, there have definitely been a lot of instances where I'm just like, okay, this is just too much to handle. Like, things get so out of pocket, and like, I can deal with criticism, I can deal with stuff, but like, when people are literally objectifying my body and like it's not even my body, it just was like, okay, like literally these people have no limits. They will go as far as they want to try to, tear me down and try to, basically get me to quit. And I also think that's kind of motivation for myself, where it's like all of these people want to see me fail, and it's like I am not going to give them that satisfaction, because when I put my mind to something, like I know I'm going to accomplish it, and like there might be hurdles like that on the way, but like that doesn't change like my end goal.
Okay, so this actually opens up another thing too. So recently, Taylor Swift, a very well-known celebrity, has had an issue just like this, where on Twitter specifically, people were spreading fake news of her, and basically, people essentially doing like gang rape. That's like the whole vibe from what I saw. So like, immediately the reaction was, "Yo, shut this shit down." It got to the point where, you know how on Twitter when you go search for things, when you search Taylor Swift, you could not see anything. Like they shut it down entirely. How do you see that reaction? How does that make you feel?
It's definitely discouraging, because like Taylor Swift, like I mean, I was born in like '98, so like I grew up like listening to Taylor Swift, and like she's always been like a very, people love her, people hate her. Like I love her music, like I like what she stands for, and just having like that prominent of a figure, like literally being affected by like these sick individuals who either want interaction or they want money. It's just sad to see, because yes, like we are very blessed with like the internet and like all of the things that like AI is able to do, but then we have the negative sides of things like that. And then that kind of reminds me of like in the metaverse, like there were a lot of women who like had their like Oculuses on, whatever, and like they got like sexually assaulted in the metaverse, and like it just like literally like impacted them so much, because it's so realistic, and it's just like, there are going to be issues with it, but that's definitely one of, I guess, the bigger red flags that we are seeing. And like that, like, it doesn't matter like how big you are, like you can still be affected by that kind of stuff.
Were you aware that in response to people making AI porn of Taylor Swift, the White House made a statement?
I was not aware of that.
How does that make you feel that it happened?
I'm kind of surprised by it, honestly, like the fact that the White House would go to that kind of extent for it. Not saying that like they shouldn't, but it just goes to show like they are noticing it. And I don't think the issue is going to get any better anytime soon, as we are seeing AI like continuously progress.
So last thing I'll touch upon with the AI stuff. So not only the White House has responded, but in fact, people are speculating on whether or not Taylor Swift has the legal power to sue or take people to court. How do you see that play out?
That's kind of tricky, because do I like morally think that like, I should have right to like sue that guy who like made deepfake videos of me, and like Taylor Swift
or the company itself? Actually, from what I understand, what they're saying is that effectively the people responsible for allowing this technology to be possible, to make porn out of basically anybody, like they should be held accountable as well.
I don't really think that the company, I mean, it's really tricky, because like the companies themselves aren't to blame, like, but at the same time, like, could they have certain regulations and certain things where like, I don't know how they would do that. If they could, that'd be great. But I do think like the individuals who are actually committing the crime and like doing wrong should be the ones held accountable. But it's definitely a tricky kind of thing to navigate for sure.
Okay. And switching over, oddly enough, from porn technology and how people are using it in that way, a fairly notable technology, social media platform, and also pornographic platform is OnlyFans. And most recently, people are in talks of leaving it because of disagreement in terms of what they support internally with their finances. How do you see that play out from your perspective, especially in the context of like the creator economy?
It'll be interesting to see because I've seen a lot of like boycotts that don't necessarily last. But if they do actually like really like go off the platform, I'm sure that they will find another platform to actually, do their content on. And if they are like huge names where like, some women on there are making like hundreds of thousands like a month, and
Even a week sometimes.
that's madness. That's absolutely crazy. But like, these women who have like these massive supporting, like those supporters are gonna follow them to whatever platform they go to. So if they actually do end up moving on to a different platform, I could see that platform absolutely taking off, but it would solely just be because of the individuals who are moving from OnlyFans to the other platform.
So, speaking on OnlyFans specifically, so we talked about Twitter as a platform, also YouTube as a platform. Do you see OnlyFans to have like any room to play at all in the creator economy, specifically catering to people that don't make porn, just make regular old content that want to use it for its monetization potential? Do you see them having the capability to pivot in any way, shape, or form?
Like people from OnlyFans to other platforms?
No, the platform itself, in terms of like catering to people that want to create content but that does not want to create pornographic content.
Honestly, I don't think so because like OnlyFans and like, women who are doing that sort of work, like they're highly stigmatized and, no matter what your beliefs on it, like if like a woman like that were to go on Twitter, like there are a lot of women who are like actually in the Web3 space who are OnlyFans creators, like they get a lot of hate, they get a lot of, negative reaction to like what they're posting. So for people to hear the name OnlyFans, like they automatically assume like, oh, porn, and it would be very, very difficult to actually break that stigma and say like, oh no, I'm using OnlyFans, for instance, to promote like crypto content. Like that would be a very tricky thing to figure out for sure.
So you don't. It comes with the territory. It's part of the beauty of it, like it's more dynamic. So you use Patreon if I recall correctly, correct?
I use what?
Patreon if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So like, do you see any similarities between the OnlyFans model and the Patreon model in terms of like community support? Like let's say ideally, right, you have 1,000 people that pay you each $5 a month, right, for what you're creating. If you were to observe the similarities in terms of how OnlyFans will enable you to monetize versus Patreon, like which one would you say would give you more option?
I mean, I would probably say OnlyFans. I'm not too familiar with it. I have a few friends who either do it or have done it, and I know there's like, either like monthly subscriptions, which Patreon does, but Patreon doesn't do like pay per post, and I know OnlyFans does that. Like if a woman wants to like post like just like an image and be like, oh, you just have to pay to see this image, people can pay for that. So I do think
it also sends your image in the DMs as well, so you can like pay to view those specifically.
Yeah.
In addition to paying to view stuff in the feed.
Right. So I think there is more room to kind of create not different sources of income, but different areas where you can get income that way, rather than where Patreon is just kind of more black and white, if that makes sense.
I see. Okay, cool. Lastly, we'll touch upon the whole creator economy itself. So you mentioned that like you're a creator, obviously, but you also mentioned that like you're someone who is looking to branch out. What are your long-term plans? What does that look like in terms of doing creator work, but also doing work with other creators, such as myself, technically?
I think, the sky is the limit, honestly. Like, I do want to venture out into doing, like, a lot of different things. Like, I'm a dancer, so, like, my friends and I have been doing, like, dance TikToks and, like, things like that. And, not only Web3 things, but I want to be able to cover, like, general news, and then I also really like street content where, you know, people will just be like at like the Santa Monica Pier or whatever, and like they'll have the camera, they'll have the mic, and they'll just ask people like really like out of pocket questions, like, oh, like, do men deserve the same rights as women, like things like that. I could see myself doing, and like I just want to be able to express myself freely, and like when I connect with like-minded individuals like yourself who like are well known in the space and like have expertise, I'm definitely open to pretty much all different types of collaborations that way.
Cool. So with the video stuff we've done, well, also I need to check in on that. Yeah, there we go.